Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to today's Crypto Blast with myself and Cam from Institutional Fi. As usual, Cam will be giving you the ultimate rapid update or rapid fire update, should I say, in for crypto markets, which includes institutional flow, news, gossip, who's dating who, the regular random stuff to keep you guys going. Hopefully, add some value. Hopefully, put a smile on your face when I get stuff completely wrong. But before we do, I'll get the legals out the way. So, as usual, nothing discussed on this Spaces session constitute trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ or indeed Institutional Fi or indeed myself, Ryan Paisley, or Cam O'Connor. Cam, happy, what day is it? Wednesday. Happy Wednesday. You got to unmute yourself, mate.
Oh yeah, the mute button disappeared for a second now. I started to panic.
How you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. How are you?
Well, I'll be honest. I've been on non-stop meetings now since 8:30 this morning, so I'm ready to kill myself. But
Oh,
yeah,
lucky you. And here's
yeah,
another
right.
one.
No, this is one of the things I've been looking for. The morning blast and obviously the grey market blast with Angie, literally keeping me sane at the moment, especially in these markets. But anyway, speaking of these markets, what's been happening?
Oh, that says a lot about your life at the moment, doesn't it?
I
Oh,
know. Tell
if
me
this is the
about it.
highlight of your day.
Tell me about it.
Oh, no, I'm joking, of course, and thank you very much to
Thanks,
listeners
mate.
for joining
Thanks.
in. We'll jump into it just shortly. Yeah, I suppose we're going to try to avoid tariff headlines as much as possible. But it does affect the crypto landscape. We'll dive into it briefly. But there is a lot of other news that we're going to touch on outside of tariffs. So I'll give your ear a break regarding that. Let's jump into it real quick, doing the crypto market update, and then we'll jump into the news headlines over the last 24 hours.
Go for it.
So with the US imposing 104% tariffs on China, and then China now retaliating with 84% tariffs on US goods, Bitcoin dipped below $76,000 briefly, and this came off of the back of a temporary recovery of 4.5% from the low of day yesterday at 74.6 thousand, all the way up to 78K. And just when the bulls thought they were about to retest 80,000, the news with China broke and slapped it right back down. As we speak, BTC is struggling to hold on to this support of $76,000. This leads us with a couple of thoughts. Bitcoin is still highly correlated to US macroeconomic situations, given its price movements over the last, week or so. And then we can see that US Treasury yields also rose considerably on Wednesday, which for those who are potentially, new to this space or they're learning about crypto for the first time, this shows a shrinking appetite for risk assets, and crypto is absolutely included in the risk
Yeah.
assets.
I mean, but
To learn that as a fact now.
also just on that, one thing to note as well is like,
Go on.
where the markets have moved so much, and especially like rates and stuff, yields and stuff have moved. What we're seeing in traditional markets and by de facto, we're seeing that obviously in crypto as well, because crypto has gone more mainstream as people are having to what we call like forced selling. So they're having to sell potentially more liquid assets or assets that they're more happy to take a loss on, or or even take a profit on to fund other positions. Such for instance, say you are a small family fund and you've got X amount in crypto, you've got X amount in stocks, you've got X amounts in treasuries or whatever. All of a sudden, you're already levered. You're starting to get margin called because of the moves we've seen in equities. Equities are your bread and butter. What are you going to do if you need to free up some cash to then fund the margin on your equities? You're going to sell your riskier assets and the assets that you're not too handcuffed to or married to. Although marriage and handcuffs are probably the same thing. You're the married one, so I'll let you decide. So it's why you see in general in times like this, the more risky assets get let go in the hope that it frees up cash to hold on to the more secure assets. And unfortunately, as you said, there's no way getting around it. Crypto is one of the more risky, well, possibly the riskiest asset that some of these traditional investment houses or family offices have. So it's not surprising that when the market gets very, very creaky and very, very stretched, and things like margin calls start happening, one of the first things to get bailed on is the likes of crypto.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is timed, I would say timed perfectly, but there's been a lot of unstaking, just with end of staking terms for these higher market cap digital assets. including Solana, some ETH as well. And unfortunately, with the macroeconomic situations it is, people aren't restaking them; they're selling off
Oh,
and
so this
taking
was
their
already
profits
like
where they can.
so this was like scheduled destaking. So this was already in already in the calendar before this all kicked off then.
Yes,
Ah,
Solana last
perfect
week
storm.
had yeah, exactly. Solana last week had 64 million unlocked. So I think it was Monday last week. So again, you've got a lot of these people who have got access to now have unlocked liquidity where it has been locked up for quite a few
Got you.
years, and they're coming into these market conditions where it's they need to sell. It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense for them at the
No,
moment
that's
to stake it again. So there we go.
Jesus. That's horrendous timing for this.
Yeah, exactly. So, and unfortunately, this next part of the the market update, if you're an ETH maxi, temporarily cover your ears. Um, so Ethereum continued to get hit hard, down 26% week on week. That's
Ugh.
Wednesday to today. Not great. ETH currently trades at $1,440. And I probably don't have to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. The ETH BTC pair trades at its lowest point since 2020. And unfortunately,
Oof.
this has been the largest H1 drawdown since H1 of 21. Um, Not been a great start to the year for Ethereum so far. I'm going to end this on a positive note, though.
Go on.
Hope isn't all lost for Ethereum. If you stay tuned in to the Crypto Blast during the news segment, somewhere in there is a positive spin for Ethereum.
Oh,
So,
oh, oh,
if
stay
you are
tuned,
an ETH
stay
Maxi,
tuned.
stay tuned. That's it. Moving down the market cap list again, we'll just cover like the top five or six. Solana trading at 103. This again, I should probably say this is in no particular order, just in case you think Solana is underneath Ethereum in market cap. Solana is trading $103. XRP is at $1.77, and BNB is trading at $550. You know, just last week we were talking about a $650 BNB. So if you held in all your tokens there, oof, that's a bit of an ugly haircut. Looking to yesterday, the Bitcoin and Ethereum ETF flows for the 8th of April. BTC saw 326 points. So apologies if you can hear the tractors driving past my window. Apparently, it's a nice sunny day to move some cows about.
Oh.
Um, Bitcoin ETF saw $326 million leave the ETF product for BTC. Ethereum saw only $3.3 million outflow on a net basis yesterday. Um, Not sure what that was about. Very, very small volume there for Ethereum ETFs, especially when you compare that to the Bitcoin ETF suffering its largest daily outflow in a while. The crypto fear and greed index, just as we end the market recap, the crypto fear and greed index remains in extreme fear at 15 points now. This is via CoinMarketCap, which doesn't scrub the internet as hard as TradingView's fear and greed index. I think that one's at 18 points, but still in that extreme fear territory. And I suppose if you glance through any social media or talk about the markets with your family or turn on Sky News or something, it doesn't go amiss that sentiment is probably at an
No,
all-time low.
I think no, I think when you've got Sky News going live from the New York Stock Exchange opening floor, I think that's a sign that basically people that probably weren't even aware that there's a New York Stock Exchange are now thinking, "Oh my God, the world's falling apart."
Yeah, no, horrendous, isn't it? At that point, normally this would kind of
Oh,
signal,
that's the bottom. That's
okay,
the bottom.
oh, it's time to buy. They're gonna sell. We can just scoop up some liquidity and
Yeah,
boom.
no,
But
exactly
I'm not
that.
entirely sure that's this
No,
time in there.
you go first.
Yeah, but let me bite that bullet now. Um, right, onto the news segment. Right, here we go. Dig into these. So apologies if I trip over my words. We'll try to cover it as quickly as possible. Florida's bill to invest public funds in Bitcoin is scheduled for a public hearing on April 10th. So just a couple days' time. Russia's central bank, I'm not going to say the governor's name because I will butcher it, says we are developing alternative channels for transactions. Businesses are currently testing the use of digital assets. Crypto going mainstream in Russia after many years of being under ban. The US DOJ says it will no longer charge crypto exchanges or developers for users' actions. Now, I didn't see this headline go massively viral, but I think that's a pretty big headline, especially if you are a dev. It is always a massive concern with companies that you're getting involved with. And for exchanges, obviously the risk of listing an asset. Now that's being taken away. Whether that's a good or a bad thing on the regulatory side, I'll let you be the judge of that one. But for now, that's what the DOJ are doing.
Oh, well, there you go. Is this all part of like the Trump administration's like leaner stance or kind of pro crypto stance? And I assume.
100%. And when you hear the next story, you'll be like, oh,
Oh, is
okay.
this the Ethereum story?
This is not the Ethereum story.
Oh, okay.
Tariffs hit the Trump family because the Melania meme coin team moved $30 million of their token from a community funds wallet and began dumping it into the community.
Oh, okay.
Basically. So if that's listed on any exchanges, don't worry, exchange, you're safe from the Trump's family
Yeah, yeah.
dumping their community wallet meme coins into the holders, I suppose. Users on Base have deposited over $4 billion into applications on Base. This figure, as to why this is significant, this figure was only $3 million exactly a year ago. Um,
Oh,
so major liquidity flowing over to Base. It is I've been involved in a few projects we're developing on Base, and it is absolutely a breeze to develop on there. So no wonder they're seeing such liquidity being moved onto Base. Here's a story from BlackRock. BlackRock has added Anchorage Digital as an additional custodian for IBIT and ETH, their Bitcoin and Ethereum spot ETFs, alongside Coinbase. Carrying on from this story, the note on Bloomberg said previously Coinbase acted as the sole crypto custodian for the assets managers Bitcoin and Ether ETF products. The $48 billion iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, and the $2.1 billion Ethereum Trust, ETH, for those products. Anchorage is a backed investor. One of the likes is Goldman Sachs, the Goldman Sachs Group, and was last valued around $3 billion with a B. So yeah, good, interesting to see a little bit of diversification, stepping away from just solely Coinbase holding custodian of their funds. I quite like to see a little bit of diversification coming into that. Not putting all your eggs into one basket. We know, even though obviously they're going to have a direct line to Coinbase to move their funds around, they're not going to be trading on the same front-facing websites that we're trading on by any means. But we know how sketchy Coinbase can be. So it's nice to see that they're balancing out between different custodians there. Now, if Tom Talkcast is on the call, this one's for him. This is the pro Ethereum news. So Ethereum
oh,
continues to fall below its realized price for accumulation addresses. Now, past data shows that whenever ETH dips below its realized price, it's often coincided with a long-term bottom area. Sounds funny. If you're looking at the chart, you can kind of see it a little bit more. If you're listening to this for the first time, well, this is a crypto space, this is not some dodgy site. These periods have consistently been followed by strong recoveries, making them systemic application points for long-term investors. So, yeah, whilst it could signal, a long time or a long to medium term in this range or here around the battling between that $1,500 to $2K zone, it has previously meant that Ethereum moves a lot higher, a lot quicker. So there's a little bit of positivity there for Ethereum, despite all the negative headlines that keep coming out.
nice, nice,
We know we've got
nice.
the Petra upgrade coming soon for ETH, trying to make those transactions quicker and more affordable. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see.
Top
Bernstein put out
banana.
I know, Bernstein popped out a pro Bitcoin note yesterday. They said Bitcoin's 26% drop during the recent chaos is mild to compared, can't get my words out, compared to past 50 to 70% crashes, showing strong demand. China tariffs hurt miners, but US alternatives and AI opportunities offer support for Bitcoin. Bitcoin still moves like tech stocks, not gold, but acts as liquid risk assets move when markets close. Long term, it's more volatile, liquid version of gold. So the 2 trillion market cap versus gold's 20 trillion market cap. Institutional adoption via ETFs and corporate treasuries, that's 10% of the supply, has made Bitcoin more stable. Despite being down 15% year to date, ETF inflows stay positive. Selling pressure mainly comes from short-term traders, while miners stay strong with AI deals and low debt. Now, a note from myself
Go
regarding the
on.
Bernstein note. You need to take it with a pinch of salt because they're generally very, very, very pro bull side case on Bitcoin. Now, they've just said that the ETFs remain positive. If you look back over the past 20 trading days, yes, it's technically correct. 9 out of the last 20 trading days have ended negative on the day. But if you look at the flows themselves, when we do end on an outflow, those outflows are a lot stronger than the inflows coming in. Yeah, we've seen that today. Over $300 million flown out. Compared to I think its last inflows just around 100 million toward the inside. So take these notes with a pinch of salt. It's nice to see these pro Bitcoin headlines being popped out. But you do have to just kind of dig into them and just make sure they're checking the facts correctly.
Yeah.
Yeah, this it,
because
you
because a
just
lot of
want.
these as well, especially as we've discussed with crypto, like Standard Chartered,
Mhm.
big custodian firm and stuff. They're the ones that renowned for putting out Bitcoin target $300,000. We kind of know it's an old trick from the street from traditional finance and sell side notes that you put out something a bit kind of outrageous, it gets your name mentioned, it gets your company mentioned in the papers and stuff, which a lot of the times that's what they're looking for. And again, a lot of these people, they're putting out these notes, they're kind of knowing that people are going to jump on the headline and very few are going to like dig in and actually look into the detail, especially with crypto. So again, I think you're spot on to raise that.
Yeah, no, exactly. Old tactics, new industry, boom.
Yeah, exactly. Copy and paste.
So you copy paste it, mate. Copy paste it. 21 shares to launch the first Doge ETP backed by Dogecoin Foundation on the Six Swiss exchange. Now, this one's following the scandal with the meme coins over in Argentina. Argentina's House votes to launch a probe into the Libra meme coin scandal tied to President Milei. Canary files for a SUI ETF, that's SUI, with the CBOE.
Oh,
Yeah, and this one is quite an interesting story. Let's delve into it real quick. Ripple announces acquisition of a multi-asset prime broker, Hidden Road, for $1.2 billion. Now, going to need to provide a lot more liquidity pools to boost this one up, but expanding assets with prime brokerage assets of how a lot of these institutions have gained access to Bitcoin over the last couple of years anyway. Being regulated, a regulated means to access BTC without self custody. So, yeah, it's nice to see that Ripple are expanding their reach there in the financial system. Binance to launch LDUSD. Oh, this one's a bit of a mouthful and so many letters, so I do apologize. I will post it out later so you can have a look at it yourself. Binance to launch LDUSDT. That is a ticker. Their second yield-bearing stablecoin that can be used as collateral on their futures marketplace. Now they've publicized it as a reward-bearing margin asset. But don't be fooled. This is just a yield-bearing stablecoin. I think
the
they
thing
don't
is
want to
though,
use
I
that
think
headline because that's banned now in the US.
you you did raise a good point the other week about yield bearing stablecoins because for the likes of Tether and stuff that they're basically they're issuing tethers. They're not, no one's making any extra money on the tethers, but yet they're making all of this money on the yield on the treasury notes and stuff that they're buying to collateralize the stable coin, right?
Yeah,
So it's a huge money pit. Well, sorry, it's a huge like cash machine for the people issuing these stable coins if they don't have to pay yield on them. So potentially, I guess if you all we need now is, I'm not going to say they should give away all of the yield. But if you get someone like, I don't know, a Tether competitor or even Tether start issuing a new variant of the stablecoin, which gives you, I don't know, 75% of 75% of whatever they're making on yield, it's a no-brainer for anyone like looking to purchase stable coins, right? Because you're going to do them anyway, and this way you're getting, a couple of extra basis points of yield on top.
Yeah, I do think that's probably where we're going to be this time next year. I think the
Yeah,
masses are going to learn about that quite quickly.
yeah, because in theory, someone like, I'm not saying it's going to happen. Please don't think I'm kind of predicting this, but it wouldn't be a million kind of miles away for someone like BlackRock or someone like that to go, well, hang on a second, stable coins when custodianed correctly, relatively risk free, if you are backing it um, correctly, why don't we create a stable coin that also issues yield, or however we're going to get around it regulatory wise. Then if you're a mainstream investor, rather than do 100 million through Tether, why wouldn't you do 100 million through PIMCO or BlackRock or something like that if they're going to offer you some yield on that?
So as we were talking about it, Binance have issued an update saying that the Binance futures to launch their the stable coin that we were just mentioning, under the reward earning margin and asset for trading, noting that it's not a stable coin, you can't hold it or trade it for other pairs. And that's interesting. So they've just kind of gone, oh wait, hold on a minute, it's not a stable coin. Let's get that out there
Oh
real
God.
quick.
But no, but you see my point though, right? It's like everyone's been rushing to issue stablecoins now, but if you now give something back to the purchaser of these stablecoins, immediately you're elevating yourself. So it's going to be like an arms race to who can provide more back to the client.
Yeah, no, exactly. The BlackRock's build is quite an interesting one where they are airdropping essentially the yield in with their own token. Well, it's not build, sorry, it's BUIDL, their own token that they've created, and then you can cash out that token for USDC. So it's a very similar model. But yeah, I suppose you have to want to invest and hold up your cash in there.
No,
Use your stable
exactly.
coins in there. Yeah.
Exactly
But
that.
yeah, I've got one last story. As Pakistan appoints CZ,
Oh yeah.
the ex CEO of Binance, as strategy advisor on cryptocurrencies.
So what do you think about that? Is this just some kind of random kind of play where you can kind of get claimed diplomatic immunity, or is this Pakistan really getting into crypto?
That I wouldn't be surprised if this is them trying to work a way into crypto and digital assets. Um, yeah. Also note that CZ he's not out of the realms of possibility that he could be the CEO once again of Binance. Now he did state that he doesn't want to. And in fact, managed to have a conversation with him in December, and he did say, I've got no intention of it. But again, I've got no
Yeah.
intention. It doesn't mean no.
No, and also things change, right? He might go, well, I said that before Christmas, but now look, yeah. So yeah, I wouldn't. To be honest, I don't, trust them as far as you can throw them. Like most CEOs and whatnot, but especially in crypto.
Yeah. Now I don't want to end on that sus note, but yeah, that is all the news I've got today.
Perfect. Well, Cam, thank you very much as always. Thank you to our listeners. Obviously, this is going up on the various Substacks and YouTube and the PIQ Content Hub. I do need to find an extra 5 hours in the day and sort up the Spotify to get all our different blasts and podcasts up on there as well. But anyway, listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.
See you then.